It was a rainy night in October 2011 when veteran truck driver Mark Lanning found himself on a long haul through the empty back roads of rural Missouri. He had driven this route countless times before, long, quiet, and uneventful. But that night would be different. Somewhere near Route 54, flashing hazard lights and barricades blocked his usual path. A detour sign pointed toward an unfamiliar county road. Mark sighed, tapped his GPS, and took the turn. That was his first mistake. For nearly an hour, he drove through winding roads, swallowed by dense fog. The headlights barely cut through the mist, and the sound of rain against the windshield became the only rhythm keeping him awake. His stomach growled, his eyes burned. Just when he was thinking about pulling over, the GPS calmly announced, "Rest stop ahead." Mark exhaled in relief. Finally, the place appeared out of nowhere. A dimly lit turnoff surrounded by towering pines. A single flickering streetlight buzzed above, revealing two vending machines, a cracked bench, and a small restroom building. There were no other vehicles, no signs, no movement. Still, Mark parked his truck, grabbed a snack, and debated whether to use the restroom. The building looked ancient, its walls discolored, the paint peeling. But above the men's entrance, an old neon sign blinked faintly. Open. Inside, the air was thick and cold, as though it hadn't been breathed in for years. The cracked mirror reflected the pale glow of a single bulb. Stalls stood half open, their hinges creaking quietly in the stillness. Mark bent over the sink, splashing cold water on his face when he heard it. Footsteps, soft, slow. Right behind him, he spun around. Nothing. He waited, heart pounding. "Hello?" he called. No answer. He turned back to the mirror and froze. In the fractured reflection behind him stood a tall, dark shape, a shadow, motionless, human-like, but without a face. Mark spun again, but the space was empty. The silence pressed against his ears. Panicking, he backed out of the restroom, his boots echoing on the wet concrete. When he reached his truck, his stomach dropped. Fresh tire tracks, right beside his, but he'd been alone the entire time. And now, muddy footprints led directly to his cab door. Mark's hand trembled as he reached for the handle. It was unlocked. He was sure he'd locked it. Inside, everything looked untouched. But when he turned the key, the dashboard lights flickered, and the radio blared static at full volume. Through the noise, a garbled voice crackled through the speaker. "You shouldn't have stopped." Mark slammed the truck into reverse, speeding down the wet road without looking back. The headlights cut through sheets of rain. As the static continued faintly in the background, he didn't stop until 40 miles later, when he reached a brightly lit gas station. He stumbled inside and told the clerk everything, the rest stop, the mirror, the voice. The clerk's expression went pale. "There's no rest stop out that way," he said quietly. "It burned down in 1992. Driver was found dead, strangled in the bathroom." Mark didn't respond. He just stood there, drenched and trembling, as the fluorescent lights flickered above him. Since that night, Mark never drives after dark. And whenever his GPS suggests a detour, he shuts it off immediately, because he's learned the hard way that some roads don't lead anywhere real. Some roads lead back to the dead.